Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. I come to you from Globe Light Park, Arlington, every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time. And hey, you know what? We're having some gorgeous weather for the next few days, and I am excited about that. I am planning to get out this week and go to one of the national parks close to me. I think I'm going to go to the Cedar Hill. I don't know if it's a national park or a state park. So, you know me, I have to get out and go see stuff. So I will post and let y'all see what I'm doing out there because it is beautiful. And also, don't forget, we talked about this last week. If you are wanting to get your kids into coding, look into elementary IO. That's ELEMENTARI IO.io. It's a great animation program. I used it when I was in Hawaii with my students, and they loved it. All right. Oops, I got the volume on my phone on. Lord, let me turn this off. I'm having one of my senior moments. Okay. It's off. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I have this young lady here on the show that I met her at a STEM Success Conference, the second STEM Success Conference, which was marvelous. And y'all know I've been to both of the conferences, and they're online conferences for people in STEM and STEAM, and they're free. And oh my goodness, you get to meet some of the most amazing people. And I have Gina, who is an engineering life coach. But let me tell y'all something. I got to turn over and look at her bio. This young lady has a bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering and astronautical. I'm gonna have to pronounce that right. Astronautical engineering from Purdue. And she has a master's in mechanical engineering from the University of Utah. And she is a certified life coach. And she does life coaching for engineers. And I just thought that was like the most amazing thing. Because when you meet some of those techie people, I'm not going to say they're different, but trying to understand them sometimes, even trying to understand me sometimes, we have a tendency to either say too much or not say enough, and sometimes go over people's heads. But this is what she does. She works with these people, and I think that is wonderful. Gina, will you please introduce yourself to our guest?
Thank you, Mary, so much for having me on your show. It is my pleasure and my privilege to be here and to share my story with your audience. I hope they get some wonderful insights tonight by listening to my journey and my mission in life now.
I am so excited. Would you please start, because I start all my guests like this, tell them, about your background, a little bit about your career journey, stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say, before I get to that, Mary, I'm going to say what you didn't say.
Okay,
engineers, let's just put it out there, Mary. They're different, okay? They're a whole different breed.
Yes.
And I can say that because I am a former engineer. And there's nothing to be ashamed of about being different. We need to be different, and we need diversity in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to put that out there. They're a different breed, okay? And that's, it's give and take. There's some advantages to that and some disadvantages. So I'll get back to your question now. My name is Gina Covarrubias, and I grew up in the state of Indiana. And that is where Purdue University is located. And Purdue happens to have one of the best aerospace engineering programs in the country.
Wow.
And they are consistently ranked in the top 5 every year. And as a little child, as a little girl, I had always been interested in spacecraft and aircraft and astronomy. And, you know, when I graduated from high school, it seemed like a natural fit for me. I really enjoyed math and science. And since Purdue was in state, it was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that's where I'm going to go. And astronautical and the aeronautical engineering program, it was a no-brainer for me. I didn't even consider any other program. So in that sense, I was a little unique, because a lot of students go into college not knowing what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a done deal. So I graduated from Purdue with my bachelor's in aeronautical and astronautical engineering. And so my first job out of college was in Utah, and that's how I ended up going to the University of Utah.
Okay.
They had a great partnership with my employer at the time, and so I pursued my master's, and they didn't have aerospace. So I went for the next best thing in my mind, which was mechanical. And by the time I graduated with my master's, I had been working, I guess, for maybe about 3 years at that point. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of in a predicament, Mary.
What was that?
I had been working full-time while obtaining my degree, so I understood to an extent what engineering was, mm-hmm. and I knew some of the different opportunities that the company presented me with. But my predicament, Mary, was when I graduated with my master's, it's supposed to be a really happy time in someone's life, yep. Right? It's supposed to be a big weight that's lifted off your shoulders, and you're supposed to be so proud of what you achieved. And for me, that feeling wasn't there.
Really?
It wasn't. It wasn't. It was actually the opposite.
Oh.
And I found myself in this situation, mm-hmm. of graduating with this degree that I didn't want. And I was telling myself at the time, now I can't do anything else. Now I have to be an engineer, and I don't really want to anymore. And so that was a very difficult time for me, because as with a lot of engineers, they work very hard, right? It's a very difficult degree.
Yeah.
And when you get to the end, when you get that degree, you tell yourself, and you almost feel entitled to a really great career, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought my degree was going to bring happiness, like there was going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And while I was working on my master's, that never happened for me. So I wasn't unhappy. I just found myself thinking, well, what else is there? And there's got to be more to life, mm-hmm. than this. So it wasn't any particular situation. It wasn't any person at work. It was just this feeling of longing. I was longing for fulfillment, and I didn't have it. And so when I graduated with my master's, I was really kind of depressed about it. And I thought, oh, but this isn't what I want to do. And so I told myself, you know what, maybe I just need a new job. Maybe I just need to switch employers. And so that's what I did, mm-hmm. in search of this fulfillment, in search of this dream job. And so I moved back to Indiana and started another job, and, you know, things were going okay. It It wasn't super great, but I wasn't unhappy. It was kind of there. And as a person who's always thinking about the future, I often wondered, okay, well, what am I going to do after this job? And what's next?
Yep.
And so I was kind of always thinking about that. And I decided, you know what? I want to broaden my horizons. I want to get out of the engineering work. I want to try other stuff. I want to do other things.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that's really common.
Yeah.
Not just with engineers, but with a lot of working professionals. Because we want to keep growing and evolving, right? That's what we do as humans. And so I found myself, Mary, having this struggle during my professional career. And the struggle was, where do I belong? What am I supposed to be doing? And since the beginning, since I started my first professional job, I had always felt like a fish out of water.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Oh, I do.
I just felt like, I earned the right to be here, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And again, I think it went back to that lack of fulfillment. And I don't know about you, Mary, but when you're looking for fulfillment in a job and you can't find it, that can be really, really frustrating.
Because sometimes you don't even know what that even looks like. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You want something, but you really don't know what it is. So
that is a really great way to put it. And coming out of college, going into my first professional job, really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So my mind was open to anything. I was just ready to dive in and do whatever. I just assumed that happiness and fulfillment was going to come along with it. And it never did. And so I switched employers, and with the second employer I had, I did different jobs. I went from a very technical role to a more project management role, and eventually I went into more of an administrative role. And at one point in time, I thought I had the solution, Mary. I thought I was really smart. And this is what I told myself. I said, you know what? I've been doing the engineering thing. I know I want to expand my horizons and try other stuff.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to get an MBA. That's what I'm going to do. And once I get that MBA, that's going to solve all my problems. Then I'll have that dream job. That's going to make me happy. So that was my solution at the time. And so I applied to a school that was nearby.
Yep.
And I got accepted, and I paid for it out of my pocket, and I started going. And I started taking part-time courses because I was working full-time. And then, Mary, do you know how, if you could think about a time in your life where you had planned so diligently for things to go a certain way.
Yes.
And all of a sudden something happens that just completely rains on your parade. Have you ever had that happen to you?
How many times? I mean, one of the key things that my son said when he was on the show a few weeks ago is when he graduated college, it did not prepare you for the afterlife. After graduating, it didn't teach you how to get a job. It didn't teach you how to communicate with other people. It didn't teach you how to network. It didn't teach you how to connect. And now we graduated from the same college. I graduated in 1981. He graduated, 2019, and we had the same problem, the exact same problem. We had to find our own ways.
And that is a whole nother topic, Mary, that you and I could talk about for a whole nother hour.
Oh, yeah.
Completely agree with that. So anyhow, I made these plans, and I thought, I'm going to go get my MBA, and then go into, I don't know, finance or supply chain or something,
Mm-hmm.
and live happily ever after. And it just so happened, so I went for 2 semesters, and then the rain came, and the rain did rain all over my parade. And what happened was I was going through a really, really tough time at work,
Yeah.
and things were not working out in my favor. They weren't working out the way I thought they should have been. And what happened was I was so attached to my career, Mary,
Mm-hmm.
as many professionals are.
Oh, yeah.
And especially engineers, as I mentioned, they work really, really hard for this tough degree, and they have high expectations for their careers and their whole career path. And so I was very attached to the outcome of my job at the time. And the job wasn't going so well. There were just too many things that were adding up that I wasn't liking. And what happened was my health took a nosedive.
Oh, yeah.
My body said, I've had enough. And I started getting very ill. And the illness was it was from head to toe. It was systemic. It wasn't just one thing or another. And so that started a journey for me through the medical system, and I had been going to doctor after specialist, blood work after blood work. There were a lot of guesses, there were a lot of theories.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors they're very smart, and they don't like to admit, well, we don't know what's wrong with you. And basically that was, in a nutshell, what the story was, is there was a diagnosis that came out of it, but in addition to that, there were too many symptoms that were unexplained. Idiopathic, that's the term I've come to learn and not like. Idiopathic means they do not know the root cause of your symptoms. And so there were a lot of professionals who couldn't tell me exactly what was wrong. And that was so frustrating for somebody like me. And I thought, how could you not know? What do you mean? Like if the blood work says I'm fine, but you're telling me I'm not fine, it just blew my mind.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I was out of work for many months, several months. And I was very frustrated that I couldn't solve my own problem. But eventually I started recovering and got back into work. And I had the opportunity to become an academic advisor, actually at Purdue University, which is where I graduated from, in the same department I graduated from. So that was a real treat for me because I had so much to offer these students. And so I worked as an academic advisor for 3 years, and it was great. It was a wonderful learning experience. I loved the one-on-one interaction with the students. And like I said, I had a lot to offer. And because I didn't have any, and if you work at a major university, you kind of need a PhD if you want to make a career out of it. And I didn't want to be a professor. I didn't want to do research.
You didn't
so
want to
I
publish
thought,
because that's a pain.
Yeah, and some people love it, which is great.
Yep.
But that wasn't me. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go back into corporate, and so that's what I did. And then it's fine, it's okay. It's not fulfilling, it's not my dream job, but it pays the bills, and it's a job, right? And when I went back into the corporate world and started working again, I eventually realized that I had been given a second chance.
Yeah.
And at the time when I fell ill, I was very frustrated, not only that I couldn't get an answer from the medical community, But I was frustrated also because I had to drop out of my MBA program.
Oh, that's right. You were in that.
And right. And, at the time, it was compounding. All the things that were going wrong were just compounding. But now today I look back and I realize I'm glad I didn't finish it, and I didn't need it. So when I went back to the corporate world, I told myself I've been given a second chance here.
Uh-huh.
I need to go back to pursue the MBA again, but I want to do something great, and I feel like I'm more capable than what I'm doing in my day job. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
It does.
I don't know if you ever felt that way, Mary.
I'm feeling that way right now, but yeah.
And again, I suspect that many professionals have that feeling every now and then. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was really tugging at my heart because I was able to recover from being so ill. And I just thought, you know what, I kind of feel like I need to explore and get out into the world and see what else is out there. What other possibilities are there for me? And I almost felt like a wild animal that wanted to be let out of its cage. So I did a very brave or risky thing, however you want to look at it.
And what was that?
And what I decided, Mary, is that I'm going to leave my profession behind. I'm going to walk away, and I'm not going to go back, and I'm going to create something else for me. I'm going to make a second dream come true, whatever that looks like.
Now, let me ask you a question. When you walked away from your first career, I'm quite sure you had car payment, rent, all those grown-up bills that we have. Did you worry about those, or did you know that you had prepared yourself for that?
What I decided to do, Mary, is to live off of my savings.
Okay.
And that's how I was going to pay all my bills. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm going to take 5 or 6 months, do what I need to do. I'm going to do some self-reflection. I'm going to dive into information that's out there, and I'm going to figure out what it is Gina's supposed to be doing with herself. And most people looked at me, almost everybody looked at me and said, what? You're quitting your job without having another one? Oh, I would never do that. You're really brave, Gina. I couldn't do that. So I heard a lot of that over and over. And Mary, I was at peace with my decision. I was not worried the least bit. I knew I would be okay. But I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Mm-hmm. So I threw myself into courses and podcasts, and one thing led to another. And I discovered a life coaching podcast a few months after I left my last job. And I started listening, and I was very doubtful. I had heard of life coaching. I didn't know what it was. And I thought, I'm going to give this a chance. And I started listening, and I thought, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? This is amazing. And then I listened to another one, and then another. And it resonated with me, Mary, in a way that nothing ever had before.
Okay.
And I told myself, that should be me on that podcast. I should be talking instead of this lady. And so I started looking into life coaching opportunities, schools.
Yes.
There are many out there.
Yes.
And I found the one.
At them today too. I was like, after our conversation last night, I said, let me look into this, because I'm always telling people how to do things and, how to present themselves and stuff like that. And I was like, let me look and see what this is all about. But give me just a second, Gina.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just now joining us, this is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio, coming to you here on the Fishbowl Radio Network. I come to you every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time here at Globe Life Park. And today we have Gina, and I'm not going to pronounce her last name. I'm going to let her do it because I will kill it. She is an engineering life coach, and she is the founder of Deliberate Doing. And she is telling us her story, and I am so excited to hear about it. So, Gina, would you continue? You packed up, you left your company and did something new. So can you continue to tell us how that went?
Absolutely, absolutely. After working in my engineering profession for 12 or so years,
Wow.
I decided I'm leaving. I'm walking away. I'm going to make a different dream come true. I don't know what that looks like. I discovered what life coaching was, and it resonated with me, Mary.
Okay, Gina, you're talking, but you're frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you, but
All right, we're good.
It seems that I can't turn my camera back on.
Right, and I've had that situation. When sometimes when you have an external camera, it does this. So
okay, do you want me to unhook my external camera?
No, just leave it because I've got you. I've got you now. It's just not gonna come. It's just not gonna come on because we're doing it call, and that's fine.
Okay.
Because this is a story that we've got to finish hearing, and I'm excited about it. So
yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are back.
Good deal.
So, you were talking about you had stepped out of your job, had used your savings, and you were trying to determine what you were going to do next.
Absolutely, yes. So that brings me to the summer of 2019. And I had obtained my life coaching certification in March of 2019. And so I thought, you know what? I have a really, really good solution here. I have the skills of a life coach, but I also have my previous professional experience in the engineering world.
Yeah.
Particularly in aerospace. That's where all of my jobs actually had occurred, was in the aerospace world. And I thought, you know what? I have worked with many people who did not know what they wanted to do next. I've seen a lot of people settle and just kind of come to work and go through the motions, because the older you get, the less risk you want to take, right?
Yeah, because by then you have a house, you have kids, you have a wife, you have debt. So yeah.
Exactly. And let's face it, engineers make pretty decent money.
Oh yes.
Okay, they make good money. They make a good living in general. And as a person who had always kind of observed people around me, because I was always looking for that next big thing, I told myself, oh my gosh, I can help. I know how to help these people who feel stuck. I know how to help that person who is right where I used to be, which is there's got to be more to life. And this isn't really what I went to school for. And I had bigger expectations than this. And so what I did, Mary, is I combined the two. And I thought, I am going to create a business. I'm going to create a coaching business to help that STEM professional who is disappointed, who is stuck, who is undecided on what they want to do next. And the other thing I'll say about engineers is they tend to not take risks. No. Right, Mary?
They're comfortable where they are, and why should they do something else?
That's right. And for that reason, a lot of them end up just kind of showing up and going through the motions and not really having a passion where they once had. And so in the summer of 2019, I just kind of put some resources together, and I thought, I need to create a coaching business for that STEM professional who is really unhappy, but who may not want to go back to school,
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't want to become an entrepreneur like I'm going to do. Maybe it's just a matter of, finding that right job. And so that's what I did. And in the summer of 2019, I filled out paperwork, and I got somebody to help me with a website, and I did all the little things.
And I love your website.
Oh, you do? Oh, thanks. It's coming along. It's always changing.
Uh-huh.
Just like a social media profile, right? It's always changing. You're always updating things. And that was something I had to learn through this whole process. I didn't know the first thing about being an entrepreneur, Mary. And I thought, you know what? I have to do this. I have to do this. I understand how those people feel. I understand how the stuck or the unhappy professional feels. I used to be there. And thanks to my life coaching skills, I understand how to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did, Mary. I created my business, and now I cater to the unhappy or the stuck STEM professional who does not know what to do.
Now, what is the name of your business?
The name of my business is Deliberate Doing,
Mm-hmm.
and my website is deliberatedoing.com. And on my website are plenty of resources
Yes.
for anybody who would like to investigate my work and to see exactly what it is I do. Of course, anybody is always welcome to send me an email or fill out my contact page if they want to talk to me one-on-one. And what I do have to throw out there, Mary, is that a lot of people don't really understand what a life coach does.
So can you tell us what that is, Gina?
Yes, I will. They think I'm a career coach.
Okay.
And a career coach, while it's very valuable for certain people, is very different from what I do.
Yeah.
So what I do, Mary, is I coach people on how to live their lives on a very, very general, broad basis.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is I help people understand what their belief systems are. What is it you're believing about the world around you? What is it you believe about yourself? What is it you're believing about your career and your career path and so on? And what I do is I help them understand how their thoughts and these beliefs that they're living by, I help them understand how they affect the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of us have not been taught to sit back and think about our belief systems.
Yeah, you're right.
And we've not been taught how to deal with our emotions and with the feelings and the energy inside of us that our thoughts create.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think some of this may have been why you didn't feel well back in the past?
Excellent question, Mary. After going through my certification program, what I realized is that it wasn't just that incident when my health tanked.
Yes.
It was throughout my whole professional career. I kept seeing a pattern of me chasing something and being unhappy. And my life coach certification taught me that I was actually the one who created that situation for myself.
Okay.
Because of all the thoughts and because of my belief systems that I had at the time. And that's a great question, Mary, because many of us go through life and we point fingers and we blame circumstances and we blame other people and we blame our jobs when things don't go our way, right? That's very easy for us to do. And so what I help people understand is instead of blaming the things around you, let's take a look at yourself. Let's take a look at your thoughts and what's going on inside your head that is enabling you to blame all of these things around you. And so I'm like a personal trainer, Mary, except for the brain.
Okay.
So you know how you go to the gym and you hire a trainer and they put you through a program to help you lose fat and gain muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time. You're not going to do that in a couple of weeks. And it's the same thing with me. I'm a personal trainer for the mind. What I help you do is understand this is where you are, this is what you're thinking, these are what your beliefs are telling you, and this is what it's resulting for you in your life. If you want a better life, if you want different results, then guess what? We're going to change the way that you think. We're going to change your belief system.
But why would someone in engineering or any other career field, why would they need that? Why would they need a life coach? You know, why is this needed?
Yes, the reason they would need that, the reason any ordinary person would need a life coach to solve any ordinary problem, Mary, is because the problem starts with your belief systems and with the way you're viewing your circumstances. In a nutshell, if you want a better life, if you want better results, if you want a different reality, you have to start by tackling your belief systems.
Okay.
Yes. So if you're very unhappy in your job, or if you don't like your boss, or if you can't get along with your colleagues, or if you're very indecisive, then you work with a life coach like me who will help you understand and declutter what's going on in your mind so that you can have a clear vision and make a decision on how to move forward. And so I don't give advice as a life coach, Mary, and that's another thing most people don't understand. I don't tell people what to do. I don't give advice. What I do is I ask a series of questions to help people unravel their own answers for themselves. That's exactly what I do as a life coach.
I mean, and you know, that makes sense because a lot of times we go to jobs or we go to do certain things and we go from place to place to place and we have the same issues or we have similar issues. And you know what? Those issues obviously revolve around you, not necessarily around the people that you're going to go to work for. So you need to think of who you are and what your beliefs are and what you're doing in those situations. I like that.
Oh, that is such a great life coaching fundamental concept, Mary. I'm so glad that you just mentioned that. Because you're absolutely right. When you're in the situation, it's really hard to see that.
Yeah.
When you're deep in it, it's hard to get out of that bubble.
Yep.
And you know, when you're unhappy in your career as an engineer and you go home and you tell your friends or your family that you're unhappy and you don't know what to do about it, and when they look at you and say, but you have such a great job and you make such good money, what would you have to be unhappy about? All that does is just add salt to the wound.
Yeah.
So as a life coach, like you just mentioned, what I help people understand is that unless you change the way you think about the world around you, unless you change your own belief systems, you can try as many jobs as you want, and you're still going to take the same brain with you.
Yes. Yes, and that's so true. So true. Now, you know, I've told you I've been on your website. Because we're in this whole environment of COVID, you know, how are you working with people now? You know, people can contact you through your website, and you know, how are you working with them?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. So I will preface my answer by first of all stating that if you're a working professional who is having trouble in your job, whether it's indecision, whether it's a relationship issue at work, whether you think you're being bullied or treated unfairly, all of these ordinary issues I'm happy to talk to you about if that's you. And what I do is I will just have usually I set up a very casual first time meet and greet with anybody who wants to talk to me. And if they're interested, once they learn more about me and how I could help them, if they're actually interested in getting coaching from me, Mary, Because of COVID, I offer 2 free sessions up front to
Okay.
anybody who's interested in coaching. You don't have to be a working professional. If you're a human with a human brain, I can help you. And so what I do is each session is 60 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if anybody's interested, I set up 2 sessions with them at our convenience, something that works for our schedule. And then from there, we can decide how we would want to work together. And there's no pressure at all. Before you make any financial commitment, you will get to work with me and understand how I operate and what my personality is like. And that gives us a chance to decide if we're a good match for each other.
Okay. Now, believe it or not, this 50 minutes has flown by. We
It
have
really
we have
has.
about 4 minutes left, but we talked about for a brief minute working with engineering students.
Yes,
I know
yes.
you've done some things with them.
Yes, I have. Thank you for bringing that up. So, in addition to one-on-one coaching with my clients, the other thing I do is group speaking.
Oh,
So, if someone's listening and they have an organization that could really use some insightful information about, let's say, self-confidence at work, relationships at work, work purpose, career attachment, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very happy to have a conversation with you and possibly arrange to be a speaker for your group. And one of the groups that I love to speak to are students,
mm-hmm.
particularly college students. And in fact, Mary, I have a separate side hobby that is different from my business.
What is that?
And yes, it's a blog site that I started. Gosh, how long has it been? 2 years ago now, I think.
Wow.
And it's basically my way of advising students again, like I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I started the blog site because I thought, this is a great way to reach students all over, not just not just on one campus.
Yeah.
And the name of that site is advisingstudentengineers.com.
Okay.
And what I've done on the site, Mary, is I have combined lessons learned with tips and suggestions and experiences from me being an engineer, experiences from me being a life coach, and I just write about whatever comes to mind about what students are suffering with. And it's the purpose is to help remind students that they're humans first,
Yes.
and they have real thoughts and feelings that matter.
It sounds like that, you've gone, oops, hit my mic. You've gone through some things that have shed a light on what you need to be doing with your life. And you know what? And I'm gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this. I think one of the things that catapulted you into this, and you may deny it, is the advisement that you were doing at the school. You were seeing that you could bring people in and help people, and help them to see, the direction they may go. But anyway, we've got like a minute left, and I don't want Tom to start waving at me because he's my new producer this week. But
Yes, I agree with that statement 100%. You're absolutely correct.
If you could give one bit of insight to engineers out there, young and old, what would you tell them?
Oh, what I would tell them is that if you want a great career,
Mm-hmm.
if you want that dream job, if you want to be fulfilled, what needs to happen is you need to start with yourself first.
Oh,
If you want great, you have to be great. That's the way it works, Mary.
that is a awesome statement, Gina. Hey,
It took me a long time to learn that.
well, you know what? I'm gonna have to have you back.
I would
Because
love to come back.
we did not even touch the surface. I mean, there's other things that I want to ask you about, but hey, Gina, I have got to have you back, and this is going to be soon. It's not going to be next year. It'll probably be
I
a
would
few months
love to
from
come
now.
back. Anytime, anytime. I would love to come back, Mary. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so great, so great. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if y'all missed this, if you want to make sure anybody that you know that's in engineering meets Gina, please, please, please. She has a website called Deliberate Doing. Is it deliberatedoing.com?
Yes, deliberatedoing.com, exactly.
Deliberatedoing.com and advisingstudentengineers.com. Please check her out. And John, this is my friend John, he's an electrical engineer. If you are listening, I want you to contact this lady because I think you need her. But hey, Gina, thank you for coming. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been All About STEM Radio. And don't forget, I will be back next week with Kimberly Gardner, a STEM scholar from Howard University. And I'm sure that's going to be another great show. So I'd like to say good night and see y'all next week. Bye-bye.